Welcome to the beast, I unleash, I'm a motherfucking beast.
What's up, YouTube? So welcome to post-program series episode number 1. What's next for you? Reverse dieting and cheat meals explained. So we're going to jump right into this. First, I want to preface this by saying this is most specifically directed at people who chose their goal to be fat loss for the 30-day kickstart, because let's be honest, most people out there are going to be like, oh, 30-day program, like let me lose some fat. That's most people's first intuition, so I'm going to be focusing mainly on that. I will say that if you were at maintenance or in a growing phase for the 30-day kickstart, you can easily just continue that. There isn't much to say about any danger to weight gain, there isn't much danger to changing things up. There's just not much to really say about it, because fat loss is where your body is the most sensitive to change and weight gain afterwards, so it's not as big of a deal to focus on the after if your goal wasn't like immediate fat loss, like dig hard now, let's go. So yeah, if you were at maintenance or you were growing, if you want to continue doing that, that's great. If you want to transition into more intuitive eating, you've probably learned some really great habits over these past 30 days that you can carry over easily into more intuitive eating, listening to your body and not necessarily weighing everything. If that feels like a good transition for you, then I suggest go ahead and do it. If it feels like you want to keep tracking your macros and weighing foods out for a little bit longer, maybe a couple months, maybe another year, that is also totally okay. There's nothing wrong with that, and the longer that you work on implementing those habits and weighing your food and learning those portion sizes, the easier it's going to be to transition into intuitive eating in the long run, because you're gonna know your portions like that. Like, I've been tracking macros for about 3 years now, and I can tell you what some number of grams looks like in any sort of food, and my guess will be pretty on point, and it's kind of freaky, but just the more time you have with that, the better off you'll be in the long run. There's no right or wrong way to go about it. Now let's get right into if you were doing fat loss and what you need to do after. So what we're talking about here is reverse dieting. So I'm gonna get into cheat meals later. It's gonna be pretty cut and dry when we get to that point, but reverse dieting is not just for competitors, even though it's a very, very commonly used thing with competitors, and competitors probably need it the absolute most. That doesn't mean that people don't diet hard when they're not dieting for a show. I know plenty of people who diet like crazy hard and they need a reverse diet so badly and they've never stepped on stage. So what it is essentially just gradually raising your calorie intake week by week, managing your overall weight week to week, and focusing on gaining as much muscle as possible while gaining as little fat as possible. Now, a huge myth with reverse dieting is that you get leaner while you do it. This is not true. If you are ending a diet, you will gain weight back. You will gain weight back. I had to say that twice. It doesn't matter that you've gotten to your lowest weight in your entire life. If you're going to maintain those results, the lowest weight in your entire life is most likely not maintainable for you, and trying to maintain that will just put you in a worse situation in the long run. So what the goal is to raise your weight a little bit over a long period of time by building muscle without adding on excess fat, with adding as little fat as possible, so that you might be a little bit heavier a few months down the road, but it looks better on you because it's more muscle. Your metabolism's stronger, you can eat 10 times more while looking almost the same as you did at the very end of your diet, while feeling 20 times better because you're not doing hours of cardio and you're not eating bird food. You're eating a normal, balanced diet. So that's where reverse dieting gets you. It does not make you lose more weight. There are circumstances where that can happen, but it's not common. Most of the time, you are going to gain some weight back, but that does not mean that weight gain is bad. It doesn't mean that weight gain automatically looks bad on you just because the number on the scale goes up. A lot of times weight gain looks better on every individual when it's made of muscle. Keep that in mind. Muscle makes you look tighter and leaner even if you're heavier. So what my personal goal is right now is I am reverse dieting, and I'm going to reverse diet until I get into a calorie surplus, and then I'm gonna start lean bulking from then on until I prep for my next show. So right now I'm 130 pounds. I expect to gain weight every week. It is totally normal, and it does not mean I'm going to look worse or look fatter every single week. I want to just get rid of that myth right there. So how to do this, how to reverse diet, how to maintain the results that you've worked so hard for over these past 30 days. The first rule, do not go right back to the way you were eating right before this diet started. This is not a whole 30. This is not a 30-day cleanse. This is not a 21-day fix. You don't just do this for a certain number of days and then stop and then expect all your results to stay the same. It's actually the worst thing that you can possibly do is going back to the way you were eating before. Because when you finish dieting, your metabolism is in a very sensitive state. Sensitive meaning that it has been lowered because your body weight has lowered, your cardio has increased. So your basal metabolic rate is lower than it ever has been, meaning the amount of calories you burn at rest is lower. And so if you go back to eating the higher intake that you were eating before you started restricting calories, your body's not just gonna soak it up. Your body is going to be like, oh my God, we have nowhere to put all this food that's coming in. So that's why you see competitors who get off stage and then they binge eat for like a week straight, and they gain 10 times more weight than they lost in the whole like 20-week diet back in the matter of a week, because their body is just not ready for this influx of food. One cheat meal is great. We're gonna talk about that later. One cheat meal is fine. Even two, that's fine. But when you get into that habit of consistent overeating right after your diet, that's when you start packing on weight faster than you lost it, faster than you could ever even imagine, and you sit there wondering, how did this happen? It's because your body was in that sensitive state. So do not go back to eating the way you were right before you started dieting. That does not mean that you cannot have bad foods. Like I said, we'll talk about cheat meals later, but that's rule number one. Rule number two is do not continue eating the exact same way that you were on your diet, because that was most likely a very restricted calorie amount. And what that's going to do to you mentally is it's going to keep you feeling restricted, it's going to keep you feeling suppressed inside, and then when the opportunity comes, you will crack at some point. You cannot hold your food intake down here for the rest of your life and have your cardio and workouts be all the way up here for the rest of your life and expect to feel normal. Your hormones are gonna get out of whack. You're going to be much more susceptible to cravings. It's just not healthy for your body, and eventually you will hit that breaking point where you will eventually get into that overeating cycle, and then what I just explained before will happen to you if you try to essentially eat the same amount. Basically what I'm saying is don't do what you were doing before, and don't continue doing what you were doing at the end of your diet. So what's the solution? Do something new. So what that new thing is the reverse diet, which is the gradual increase of calories over a long period of time. And with this, you want to continue implementing the healthy eating habits, the macro tracking, the 90 to 10 clean eating approach, fitting things into your macros in moderation, all of that. Incorporate that into your reverse diet. Allow yourself to fit your cravings into your macros with reason so that you feel satisfied, you feel like you're getting your cravings in as you're building your calories back up. Basically, reverse dieting, a how-to, quick how-to. If you're tracking calories from whatever your bottom calories were for the end of your diet, I would say bump them up by about 200, 1 to 200, sometimes even 300 if you feel like you really need that bump up. Bump them up to there, and then do that for a week, see where your weight goes, and then from there increase by about 50 to 100 calories per week from then on. And then for macro trackers, you want to just be increasing your carbs and your fats, because your protein is going to be at your body weight, but your carbs and your fats need to go up. So I would start by just increasing your carbs by maybe 20, 30, 40 grams, fats by 5 to 10, and then see where your weight goes after 1 week, and then start increasing from there in smaller increments, so like 10 carbs per week, or 10 carbs every week and 5 fat every other week. Just small increments like that, and if you're sticking to it week by week by week, then your metabolism is going to respond very well. You're going to gain minimal weight while bringing your food up as much as possible. And then the reason why I say do that bigger initial jump is because it's so much more sustainable for you mentally. If you're at the end of a diet and you're starving and you're hungry and you're like, all right, time to reverse diet, let's do this. I was eating 50 carbs a day before, let's make it 60. Yeah, week 1, reverse diet. Like, no, that doesn't do anything for you mentally. You're still very depleted. You're still in that low zone of calories. So if this hypothetical person was eating, let's say 50 carbs a day, which is ridiculous. That's like what I ate at the end of my prep last year. That's freaking crazy. Please don't do that. If you were eating that low, then I would say right off the bat, bump it up to 100. Because that would make you feel like you're on top of the freaking world. Even though 100 carbs a day is not a lot at all, like that's still way lower than I got during this 30-day period. It still feels like a huge relative change from 50. So you want to have that bigger initial jump, higher calories right off the bat, so then that way you stick to it for that first week or first 2 weeks. You actually stick to it instead of just falling off the wagon and binging. Guys, reverse dieting in the context that you are still hitting your macros or hitting your calories every single day. When you're falling off the wagon and you're cheating or you're binging or you're overeating, you can't expect to see the same results that you would if you were being diligent with it. So at that very beginning stage, give yourself that jump so you can stick with it. And then for cardio needs to decrease as well. So in a reverse diet, you're not only raising food, but you're lowering cardio. So with cardio, what I typically like to do is with my clients, I like to keep frequency high, and then I lower the duration of each session each week. So like, let's say someone's doing 5 sessions per week of 30 minutes of steady state cardio. The first change I would make for that next week is I'd probably just knock it down to like 5 sessions of 20 to 25 minutes for that next week, so that it's like you're still getting that stimulus of cardio every single day, but you're knocking down the amount of time because you want to lessen the stress on your body. You want to let your body recover better. You want to let it rest more, and doing less cardio over time is a crucial part of your reverse diet as well. And now, while you don't need to reduce your cardio all the way down to 0, you do want to reduce it down to a level that you feel is easy to maintain. So whether that be 2 sessions per week, 1 session per week. Some people just hate cardio, so they cut it out completely by the end of their reverse diet, and that's totally fine. But some people like to keep like 1, 2, 3 sessions per week, and that's totally okay, especially if you like to sweat and feel those endorphins. So it's up to you, but reduce your cardio each week very slowly. And so with reverse dieting, with this whole program in general, the main thing that I want you guys to take away from making changes week to week is that you are somehow gathering all your data every week. You're able to look at your adherence to your macros 7 days out of the week. You're able to look at your weight in a line, how it's been trending over the course of that week. You're able to look at your average weight for the week, see how that average compares to the last 7 days average, and then you're able to look at your amount of cardio, your training, everything, like the logs that I gave you guys, like look at all of that in the context of one whole week and say, okay, this was my food, this is my workouts, this is my cardio. How did I sleep this week? How much water was I drinking? How much stress was I under? Am I on my period? Was my schedule weird? Was I traveling? Like anything like that. Look at your entire week as one big whole piece, and then make your decision like, okay, I'm gonna increase by more this week. I'm gonna decrease cardio by less this week. Whatever your changes are, you need to be looking at your entire week in the context of everything. And that is how having like a coach helps, because when I get a check-in from a client, it's all the logs, it's all their weight, it's everything like that, and their reflection on how they felt, their stress, everything I just listed. When you have that objective person like looking at all of those variables as a whole, it's very easy to reach a decision, and the right decision, because you're not letting your emotions affect you, you're not letting your attachment to a certain amount of food affect you. And so that's where a coach can be helpful, and where I think people find it easier to like rely on someone with a weekly check-in. But if you don't have a coach, I'm not saying hire me. I mean, if you want to, that's great, because I have spots open as of right now, but it's not meant to be a plug. If you don't have a coach, then do that for yourself. Look at all the data objectively. You're not a freak for keeping like a big Excel file or a big notebook of everything, like it really will help you make the right decisions every week moving forward, and you'll make the right kind of progress because you're not gonna just wait 3 days and then be like, well, I don't see anything happening, so I'm just gonna change all of this. Like, no, give yourself a plan for the entire week, follow it, and then look at your entire week as a whole. And that is my best advice for reverse dieting, for cutting, for anything, any goal with fitness is weekly check-ins with yourself or with your coach. So essentially with reverse dieting, you want to do this process of increasing food and decreasing cardio until you're at a point to where you have little to no cravings. Your hunger is very manageable, you never feel starving, your energy levels are naturally high, you don't need to rely on caffeine to like live, and you're not doing any more cardio than you want to, and you're having great lifts and you're getting stronger over time. That is huge. If you're not getting stronger over time, then you really need to look at your intake and your cardio and change something, because getting stronger over time is an indication that you're at maintenance with your food or above and building that reverse diet properly. So that's reverse dieting. That's enough of that. The next thing I'm going to talk about is cheat meals, how to go about them. So essentially, you are going to have an end of Kickstart cheat meal, I'm assuming. If you don't want to have one, that's totally fine. I am tonight in like 4 hours. So what I suggest doing is just don't go super overboard with it. Don't let it be a one night, oh my god, I have to eat all of this or else I'm going to like I have to eat all of this now because it's back on track tomorrow and da-da-da. Like, no, this is a lifestyle. You are going to have many cheat meals, weekends, weeks, months off track in your future. So do not idolize this cheat meal as like the one and only. It is just going to be one of many, and you don't know when the next one's going to be, or maybe you do, but like just don't idolize it as something that you have been needing, that is like the last chance to get all this food in, because that's where kind of the trouble starts. Because if you eat a burger and fries and you're happy, you're full, and then like they offer dessert and you know you're full and you don't want any, but like your mind is telling you, oh my god, but I have to have it because tomorrow I'm gonna go back on macros, like that's the wrong mindset to have, and you really got to work on talking yourself out of it, because you're going to have other opportunities in the future. Life is just like that. You're never going to be rigid 365 days a year for the rest of your life. So keep that in mind when you're getting your cheat meal. Let it be a cheat meal, not a cheat day, not a cheat weekend, not a cheat week. Just let it be one cheat meal, and then go back to eating normal foods the next day. And then if you still feel like you need another cheat meal, give yourself one the next day, just one more meal. Or wait another week and just give yourself one the next week. Don't feel like you cannot go off plan after this kickstart. Like, just make sure that you're keeping these choices in more moderation, if that makes sense, and you're being level-headed about the decisions you're making, and you're not letting your emotions choose what you're eating or how much you're eating. So that's going to be what's best for your body, your insulin sensitivity, your fat storage, hormone balance, everything like that. There are physical and mental implications of taking this approach with your cheat meal, with cheat meals in the future, and with just overall long-term sustainability of your physique and your dieting habits and everything like that. That's what I suggest. Hopefully it helps you guys. That's gonna be it for episode 1 of the post-program series. Reverse dieting, what's next for you, where you should take your journey if you embarked on fat loss for these 30 days and killed it as hard as you could. So hopefully this was helpful. Give the video a like if you thought that it was helpful or you learned something. Don't forget to share this program with a friend or multiple friends if you want. I would really appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys very soon for episode 2 of the post-program series that's going to talk about deloading. So bye guys, talk to you soon.